All right, everyone, we're doing an out-of-theater reaction for Superman, James Gunn's Superman. We just got out of the Amazon early release. Early showing. So we're seeing a couple days before the official release on the 11th.
You say early release, and it makes me go back to when the kids have an early release from school.
And I just... But yeah, so we got myself, got Rachel here, got Logan here, so we all saw it. So yeah, so what were our initial feelings and thoughts about the movie?
Awesome.
Yeah. Perfection.
It was a packed theater. Let me just start with that.
Yeah.
It was, and I think that's the joy of it, right? When you go and it's packed, and the people that are there because they are for the love of the craft.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think there are any Snyder fans in the audience.
Probably not any Snyder fans.
And some people are a little bit more vocal than other people. So the Logan had a great seat companion to his right.
I think, she's getting into it.
Yeah.
She sure was.
I don't know what she had to drink before going into this.
She's sipping the Kool-Aid.
So
James Gunn Kool-Aid.
Not any spoilers, but there was a few moments where there might have been something that was either shocking or emotional to this woman, and she let out gasps and such. And of course, at the end, she was all applause, as was everybody.
The funniest part though was there was a scene with Lex and it was the engineer. She made a little cock gun gesture with her fingers.
Well, she didn't like her kind of thing.
Yeah, the way she was
not
reacting.
Like she was naughty or something.
Yeah.
Oh no, pretending to shoot her.
Oh.
The way that she was reacting to some of the scenes in this movie, I was wondering if she knew this was fiction. Sometimes
she was getting into it.
Yeah. She was.
Yeah, and I think that kind of sums up, I think, in a lot of ways, this movie. There's a lot of emotion. There's a lot of funny moments. Not overly. This is not Guardians of the Galaxy.
There were plenty of laughs to be had.
Plenty of laughs. I think there was a good balance there.
I don't think it was so much quips. There weren't many outward jokes being told or little quippy things a lot of superhero movies tend to have. It was more just situational.
Situational, yeah. Especially crypto and stuff like that.
Yeah, so it was really natural. It didn't break the flow of the movie or the drama.
But yeah, no, I thought that all the actors did really well. But even the kind of the tertiary characters, Perry and all the crew from the Daily Planet, I think they all did their part. A lot of them had small parts in this movie. Obviously, you can't give a spotlight to everybody. But I thought even they did well. And then, of course, the main characters, you had your Superman, Lois, and then you had some of the backup characters, with the Justice Gang. And, yeah, I think everyone, Nathan Fillion did great as Guy Gardner, and I'm a huge Green Lantern fan, so I would have liked more of that, more Green Lantern stuff, but I'm sure we'll see more of that in the future.
They're getting the series, aren't they?
Yeah, they're doing the TV series, but...
Well, I don't think Guy is going to be in it.
No, it's mostly going to be...
It's Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan.
Right, yeah. That's a topic for another time. But
I can't wait for that.
But yeah, no, I thought it was really great. I think there was a lot of just these, one thing I would say is this movie made the DC universe come alive.
Yes.
It felt, and even as the beginning told us, that superheroes have been around for 300 years. So super beings. Metahumans, yeah. And so this world is used to crazy stuff. Yeah, giant kaiju shows up in the middle of Metropolis. Yeah, it's another Wednesday, right?
Yeah, that was something that I actually liked about the setting, was that, because every single time they do a new superhero movie, unless it's in, an established, MCU sort of thing. Yeah. It's always, you have to go through the whole spiel of introducing the world, and all the people are all surprised, and do the same song and dance every time. This kind of just forgoed that, and just got into the actual movie, which was nice.
Yeah, and so I think that's definitely a hats off to Gunn and company making that all happen. And a lot of people have already said, some of the early reviews that came out said that this is the most comic accurate movie they've pretty much ever seen. And I think that Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. That if you are a fan of the DC Comics, you're going to be feeling like you're watching them come alive. And James Gunn does a great job of not feeling... I felt like sometimes some filmmakers with comic book movies almost feel ashamed of the source material. You know what I mean? It's, I don't want to get too close to the comics because I don't want to think it's going to look goofy or whatever. No, see, James Gunn, he leans into it, but he does it in such a way that it doesn't feel campy. Like, this is not like 60s Batman.
Or the original Superman.
Or the original, which I love the original Superman, don't get me wrong, but yes, there are...
I love Adam West.
What's that?
I love Adam West, but that's not... If I went into a movie now and got Adam West Batman, I think I would be...
I also liked that it wasn't slow. Even the very beginning had a very quick start with just a very brief summary, and then we were off to the races.
Yep.
There wasn't really any need for a big backstory and watch him grow up and do all this stuff. We already know.
Everyone knows Superman's story. Yeah, exactly. At this point.
Even if you don't, the movie still works perfectly well.
Because they even harken back to like his backstory, if you will, in the movie.
But it's organic.
It's not forced. We're not getting that origin story again. So that's really cool. I'll say that I really liked the way that Lex was portrayed. He was a genuinely scary dude. I was genuinely like, and mean guy too. He really, the actor, I forget the actor's name off the top of my head, I apologize, but I don't have any notes in front of me. This is just a reaction, but he did a great job of Lex. I thought that it was interesting too, because they harkened back even to the original Donner film with Lex's crew, kind of a thing, right?
Yes, they name dropped his little minions.
And so
the same names from the Superman movies. That was.
But obviously, the actor was playing Lex in a very different way, but somewhat I felt like there was actually some similarities a little bit to the original Donner film version of Lex. Not as campy, obviously, not as silly, but it did feel that way in a lot of ways. It was interesting. It was like we talked about how the comedy was organic. There was some of that silliness a little bit, even with his interactions with his minions. But it didn't feel like it was forced, if that makes sense. Like it was just how it's kind of ridiculous, and it just kind of happened.
I think the thing this movie really had going for it was there's just so much heart in it.
Yeah.
I know it's fake wording, but the whole movie you could tell like just how much it felt more like a passion project. It's
story to Superman.
A love letter.
Yeah. Gunn has always said that Superman is pretty close to his heart as a character.
Yeah.
And I think that did shine through. I think everyone involved legitimately cared about this story and about these characters. And I think that kind of heart is always what James Gunn is specialized in.
Yes.
That's why people liked the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right.
That was their main strength. And I think that carries on fantastically, superbly even, for Superman.
That's a lot of supers.
If his kind of like directing style, it just fit the character perfectly, I feel like. It felt the most Superman that we've had in a while. So very human.
Oh yeah, as he even says at the end. Yeah. Oh, so not to spoil anything, but this is already known. Obviously, you have the other characters like Guy Gardner, Mr. Terrific, Hawk Girl, and Metamorpho, and so this movie had two things. It was a Superman movie. It was to introduce us to James Gunn's Superman. But also is designed to introduce us to the new DC universe of movies. So, let me ask you guys this. Do you think this did that job well? But did it then take away a little bit from it being a Superman movie, if that makes sense?
That was kind of like one of my main concerns going into the movie, because the trailer just had so many characters, like rapid fire. I was worried that it wouldn't be able to handle packing all of that in, but honestly, it felt completely natural.
Yeah.
It never felt really interjected. I think it did benefit from Superman not being actually part of the team. He's just they're in the same area doing similar things, like know each other, they're like friends, but he's not like a member. So they were like disconnected enough that you could have they didn't have to be constantly intertwined and didn't always have to be part of the movie, but then just connected enough that it was able to organically weave that subplot in. And then, of course, it reconnects to the main plot towards the end.
Yeah, they were a guy he knew from work.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say Hot
Marvel.
Girl got kind of snubbed. That's the only thing. She got 2 scenes in the movie.
Yeah, she didn't get used too much.
I think
Hot Girl is, depending on which version they end up going with, Hot Girl and all of that can be a can of worms.
I think they've actually said that she's going to be the Thanagarian version of Hot Girl.
Okay.
Wow. I think so.
Well,
don't quote me on that.
Not so much a can of worms, then.
Yeah.
Makes it a lot simpler.
I felt that it was beneficial to the film because it was allowing him to do what he felt he needed to do as far as some of the plot of his emotions, if you will, because he's always torn. That's one of his weaknesses. He can only be in one place at a time.
Sure. Yeah, he can't save everybody, kind of a thing.
Just being able to at least know that he could count on somebody to assist when he was in a pinch. If he's in a pinch, then it makes sense to have other people that have the humility to know I'm not all that. I do need other people. So I feel like it's organic, that it makes sense, and they weren't overwhelming in the film. And if this is going to carry over, then I see it making sense as far as that introduction goes.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it quite an ensemble, but I think the movie very much kind of rode on the back of the supporting characters a lot of the time. Like they didn't feel like they were just there to be there. They all had their own importance, even as someone with as little screen time as Perry White or whatever still had. I think the other thing too is that the castings were spectacular for this movie. There wasn't a single casting that I felt was bad. Where in most movies, there's at least like one person they're like, I don't know if that really fits them. But I think everyone was embodying their character spot on, and I think that kind of helped because you were able to just, especially if you already know some of these characters, just roll along with it. I can't really speak from the experience of a moviegoer that doesn't. It might be a bit different for them. But I think, they were all important enough to the movie that it didn't really feel like you were moving away from it to give them screen time or whatever to the point where it detracted from the film.
Although, wasn't Jimmy Olsen missing something in this film?
Oh, we'll have to, that might somewhat minor spoilerliness.
We'll see if anybody catches that
we'll
one.
go maybe deeper on some of the details later.
Yeah.
But overall, I think that this was a great movie. Maybe not perfect. I still have to think about it.
Yeah.
But I think my first initial reaction feeling about it is that it's a great introduction to James Gunn's version of the DCU, and if the rest of the movies that are coming out are going to be at this caliber or perhaps even better, then we're in for a good ride. I think the future is bright for the DCU. Any final thoughts before we sign off, guys?
I think it's one of the most authentic, and you could tell there's just a lot of love put into this movie, and it didn't shy away from what it was. And like I said, it's maybe the most authentic comic book movie that we've ever gotten.
Yeah.
If you don't have your tickets, go get them.
That being said, I've been Jonathan.
This is Rachel.
And I am occasionally Logan.
And you've been listening to Comic Talk Cafe.